Our story today is about how a kind act from years ago had devastating consequences. On March 2nd, 2018, at 4:45 a.m., the Travis County, Texas police received a distress call from a woman. She was hiding in a closet and reported hearing multiple gunshots in her home. Fearing the shooter was still inside, the dispatcher instructed her to stay hidden and wait for the police. By the time officers arrived, they had cordoned off the house. The woman hiding in the closet was local resident Corey Shaughnessy. She was in a state of panic, not fully understanding what had happened. In the kitchen, her husband, Theodore Shaughnessy, lay in a pool of his own blood. Let's explore this tragic story together. Theodore Shaughnessy was born on February 7, 1963, and was the youngest child in a large family in Arizona, near Phoenix. From a young age, he loved fast cars and dreamed of sports cars. Theodore was fearless and sought thrills from adrenaline, but he was also known for his kindness, cheerfulness, and loyalty as a friend and son. At 20, Theodore met Corey Shaughnessy at a local arcade. They instantly bonded over their shared interests in jewelry and books. Their friendship quickly blossomed into love, and they got married in 1989. After their wedding, the Shaughnessy couple moved to Austin, Texas, where they made a new home for themselves. The Shaughnessy family launched their business, Gallery Jewelers, which quickly became a success. Corey had a deep passion for gemstones and fine art, working as an appraiser for the family business. Theodore was the charismatic face of the store. His ability to connect with people made him a natural at building relationships, which greatly benefited their business. Theodore's friendliness and energy drew people in, helping to secure the best deals and partnerships. The business flourished, and the family's fortune grew to an impressive $8 million. Despite their wealth, Theodore remained generous and kind, often buying food for the needy and making regular donations to charity. As the business continued to succeed, the Shaughnessy's bought a beautiful new home near their store. They seemed like the perfect couple, complementing each other perfectly. However, there was one thing missing: they didn't have children. In 2000, the Shaughnessy's decided to expand their family. They adopted a 16-month-old boy from an orphanage in Ukraine. The moment they saw him, they fell in love. They named him Nicholas. This adoption completed their family, bringing them immense joy and fulfillment. Nicholas grew up as an active and obedient child. He shared his father's love for animals and cars, often joining Ted at the racetrack. Father and son enjoyed sports car rides and spent time together walking in the park. In high school, Nicholas developed an interest in car dismantling and started his own small business with his parents' support. They helped him buy equipment and enlist the help of friends to get started. Nicholas met Jaclyn Edison, and they were instantly attracted to each other. However, when Nicholas introduced Jaclyn to his parents, they weren't impressed. Corey felt Jaclyn wasn't right for Nicholas, but despite this, the couple's relationship continued. Over time, Jaclyn managed to win their approval and started spending so much time at the Shaughnessy home that they eventually let her move in. In August 2017, Nicholas and Jaclyn moved out of his parents' house to start their own life in College Station. Nicholas went into day trading with financial support from his parents, while Jaclyn attended school. Despite the move, Nicholas remained close to his family, making the 2-hour drive to Austin every weekend to visit them. Everything seemed to be going well, and there were no signs of trouble. On March 2nd, 2018, at 4:30 a.m., Ted and Corey were woken by their dogs barking loudly. This was not unusual, as the dogs often reacted to small animals on the property. Corey thought the noise would subside soon, but Ted decided to investigate. He grabbed his .40 caliber pistol and went to check the house. Corey went back to sleep but was jolted awake by a gunshot, followed by several more shots. Terrified, Corey grabbed her revolver from beside the bed and headed toward the kitchen to help Ted. On her way, she saw their beloved dog, Bart, shot and lying in the doorway. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared, and Corey, in a panic, fired all 6 bullets from her revolver toward the door. She then hid in a closet, fearing for her life, and managed to call emergency services. She reported a break-in, said she had shot one of the attackers, and heard moans coming from the room. While speaking with the dispatcher, the terrified Corey kept saying that she heard moaning but didn't know who was making the sounds. She wanted to check, but the dispatcher advised her to stay hidden and wait for the police. 15 minutes later, Corey was told that officers had arrived at the house. By this time, the moaning had stopped, and the house was eerily silent. Corey cautiously stepped out of the closet and went to the front door. As she passed through the kitchen, she saw her husband, Theodore, lying in a pool of blood, surrounded by shell casings. Overcome with fear, she reached the front door and opened it, but there was no one on the doorstep. The police had mistakenly gone to the wrong house due to an unusual street layout in the neighborhood. They were at a neighbor's house, trying to determine which side of the street the shots had come from. Once they realized their mistake, they rushed to the Shaughnessy home, where shaken Corey waited for them. Her life was shattered, and she was at a loss as to what had happened. The police officers went inside to calm her down. Corey called her son, Nicolas, to report the attack. She and Jackie immediately headed for Austin and arrived at Theodore and Corey's home around 8 a.m. Theodore Shaughnessy, 55, was found dead, having been shot multiple times in the head, back, and thigh. The news shocked family, friends, and acquaintances who couldn't believe that such a brutal attack could happen to them. After the tragedy, Nicolas and Jackie stayed at the house with Corey to support her and help with the investigation. Law enforcement officers examined the crime scene and found shell casings from two different guns, a .40 and a .38 caliber, indicating that the shooting involved more than one weapon. There were no signs of forced entry, but an open window with its safety netting removed in a far bedroom drew attention. The forensic team found a fingerprint at this window, which was sent to the lab for analysis. Police also spoke to several neighbors about the Shaughnessy family and if they had noticed anything unusual. One neighbor mentioned that this wasn't the first time the Shaughnessy's home had been targeted, given their chain of jewelry stores. The police collected Corey's pajamas for examination and swabbed her hands for gunshot residue. From the start, Corey was upfront about firing her gun during the attack. The police began their investigation and quickly ruled out burglary because there was no forced entry and no valuables were stolen. Their focus shifted to the murder investigation. They found that all doors in the house were intact except for Nicolas Shaughnessy's room. The door to this room had been opened, and a firearm, a .40 caliber pistol, was missing from a dresser. Since the caliber matched one of the guns used in the attack, detectives suspected it was the weapon used to kill Ted. Nicolas, Jackie, and Corey all cooperated with the investigation. Corey allowed police to search her cell phone, and while Nicolas claimed he hadn't been in Austin for about a month, he and Jackie both agreed to answer questions at the station. The police aimed to gather as much information as possible about the family and the events of that day to track down the perpetrators. They were still unsure if the murder was a random attack, a botched robbery, or a targeted crime. No unidentified fingerprints were found at the scene, which led them to question if Corey, the sole surviving victim, could be a suspect. The fact that the shooters left Corey alive and stayed in the house for 17 minutes before the shooting, with nothing stolen, seemed suspicious. Assistant Prosecutor Amy Meredith, who reviewed the crime scene, was convinced that Ted Shaughnessy knew his attacker. She believed that the house was too large and dark for random burglars to navigate quickly. As a result, Corey Shaughnessy came under increasing suspicion, especially since she was the beneficiary of Ted's $1 million life insurance policy. Their home and business were also worth a significant amount. However, there was no concrete evidence against her. Nicolas Shaughnessy also drew suspicion. Even though he was over 100 miles away from the crime scene at the time of the attack, his behavior was concerning. Investigators found a particularly important detail during their questioning of him. Nicolas went straight to a wide-open side window on the first floor, the window to his own room. He specifically checked this window, which wasn't visible from the front of the house, and it turned out to be the exact entry point used by the criminals. At that point, Nicolas had no information from the investigators about the entry point, so it was puzzling how he knew where the criminals had entered if he wasn't involved. The investigation into Nicolas's financial situation revealed significant stress. He had been struggling financially for some time before the crime. He had borrowed $30,000 from his mother for his business and had recently received a reminder to repay the loan. He also owed a neighbor $2,600. These financial pressures suggested a possible motive. Things took a more serious turn when it was discovered that Nicolas was the sole beneficiary of a $2 million insurance payout if his parents passed away. This detail made Nicolas a prime suspect in the eyes of the police. Another concerning finding was Nicolas's phone, specifically an app that gave him access to his parents' alarm system. Corey had told the police that the alarm system was disabled that night because the family often chose not to arm it when they were home. However, the system's account history showed an activation of a window opening at 4:27 a.m., followed by a detection of broken glass about 17 minutes later. Another surprising find during the search of the home was Nicolas and Jackie's marriage certificate. It turned out they had secretly married in August 2017 and didn't reveal their marriage until after the murder. As police continued their investigation, they uncovered more evidence suggesting that Nick and Jackie were planning to kill his parents. Although Nicolas claimed he had been over 100 miles away from Austin at the time of the crime, phone records showed he had been in Austin just 2 days before Ted's murder, on February 28th. Investigators wondered if Nicolas had been in town making final preparations for the crime. Both Nicolas and Jackie's phones were examined, and it was discovered that several text messages had been deleted. On February 24th, Nicolas had texted Jackie saying he was working on it, and Jackie responded, "Do they want $50,000 or not? We can't afford to pay half that early." This raised red flags for the police. When the police searched Nicholas and Jackie's apartment, they were shocked by the number of cameras installed. The cameras showed that they were at home on the morning of the crime. They also found jewelry, ammunition, and guns in a safe. One box of ammunition matched the caliber of one of the murder weapons, and a .38 caliber pistol was missing 6 bullets. Nicholas had also asked Jackie to withdraw cash from their account, and she had withdrawn $1,000 just days before the crime. This raised further suspicions. Investigators contacted Spencer Patterson, a high school friend who had officiated Nicholas and Jackie's wedding. Although it was challenging to reach him, the information he provided was crucial. A fingerprint found on the window in Nicholas's bedroom, which was a dead end as it belonged to the window installer, was irrelevant. However, police learned that Nicholas had used that window to sneak in and out of the house when he lived there, and Spencer was aware of this. Spencer's home, car, and cell phone were searched. In his car, the police found a .38 caliber handgun, which was not one of the murder weapons. Spencer's cell phone showed he was at home on the morning of the crime, so he was ruled out as a suspect, but his testimony added to the suspicion against Nicholas. Spencer revealed that Nicholas had talked about getting $8 million when Ted and Corey were gone. Correspondence between Spencer and Nicholas showed that Nicholas had tried to hire him to kill the family and steal their belongings. On May 29, 2018, Nicolas Shaughnessy and Jaclyn Edison were arrested for criminal solicitation. Corey couldn't believe it. She thought the authorities were trying to frame her son. By then, Nicholas was working at his father's jewelry store. Corey still believed it was a mistake and demanded absolute proof of their involvement. 2 weeks after the arrest, Jackie was released on bail. Corey hired the best lawyer she could find for her son. In an interview, Corey Shaughnessy said, "You could have told me that aliens landed in the front yard, and I would have believed that rather than believe that Nicholas and Jackie were planning to kill us." Corey had stood by Nick's side, convinced that maybe there was something involving money or illegal substances in College Station, or perhaps he had talked about his parents' jewelry business to the wrong person. She was willing to believe anything but that her son was plotting their murder. However, the police were confident that Nicholas and Jackie were behind the attack. The challenge was to determine who actually shot Ted Shaughnessy, which proved difficult as evidence had run dry, and the investigation was at a standstill. 4 months after the crime, Detective James Moore decided to review the surveillance video from Nicholas and Jackie's porch recorded just 2 days before the attack. For Corey, who had been struggling to maintain faith in her son, this was the breaking point. She realized with horror that she had been living with the very people who had planned to kill Ted and her. The surveillance footage from the front porch was a major breakthrough. It showed Nicolas Shaughnessy greeting 2 men at the front door, one wearing a green t-shirt with Anderson on it. Detectives quickly identified the man as Cameron Bosk from the Anderson Window Company. Although Cameron wasn't home that day, his wife provided crucial information. She revealed that a few months earlier, a man named Johnny Leon had asked Cameron to commit murder for money, but Cameron had turned him down. The police ruled Cameron out as a suspect, but were now closer to unraveling the mystery. Johnny Leon was later brought in for questioning, where he admitted that Nicholas had tried to hire him for $100,000, but he refused. Johnny was arrested and confessed that he had traveled to Austin with Nicholas a few days before the crime. According to Johnny, they parked in front of the Shaughnessy house. Nicholas went to the house, returned, and said he couldn't get in. Johnny claimed he had no involvement in the crime. However, his cell phone records showed he was in Austin on the morning of the crime. Johnny did not name the second shooter, but provided his cell phone number. This led the police to Aaron Smith, who claimed he had been with his girlfriend and had an alibi. His girlfriend said Aaron left her in a motel room that morning, took her car, and did not answer her calls. She also mentioned that Aaron had been carrying a .40 caliber handgun for several days. After the crime, the gun was recovered from a family member of Smith's. Aaron Smith was arrested, and the police discovered that both he and Johnny Leon had arrest records, including a previous arrest for dealing illegal substances. Nicolas Shaughnessy, Johnny Leon, and Aaron Smith were charged with capital murder. By spring 2021, Amy Meredith, the assistant district attorney, had left her position, and Jose Garza had taken over. His office offered a plea deal to avoid the death penalty, a lesser charge of murder with a 35-year sentence and the possibility of parole. Both Leon and Smith accepted the deal. Corey Shaughnessy wrote a letter to Nicholas, agreeing to the plea bargain, which would result in Nicholas serving 35 years with the possibility of parole. In April 2021, Nicholas accepted the plea deal. He could be released when he turns 36. At a hearing in April 2021, Nicolas Shaughnessy pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 35 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after serving 20 years of his sentence. Aaron Smith and Johnny Leon were sentenced to 35 years with the possibility of parole. Smith told police that after they shot Ted Shaughnessy, he heard gunshots and a woman crying from the bedroom. Smith claimed he begged Leon not to kill Corey and to leave quickly to avoid getting shot themselves. Nicolas sent letters to his mother, and Corey was finally able to see her son after he had been in prison for 2 years. Despite knowing a lot about the case, Corey remained unaware of who had used the .40 caliber gun, which had belonged to Ted. Nicolas eventually confessed that he had given his father's gun to Aaron Smith. This revelation made Corey come to terms with Nicolas's involvement. Corey struggled to accept that Nicolas and Jackie would have wanted to kill her and her husband. Jackie initially downplayed her involvement, claiming ignorance, but police knew she was lying due to deleted text messages revealing her knowledge. Jackie admitted to traveling with Nicolas to Austin, but insisted she never took his threats seriously. Jackie divorced Nicolas while he was in prison. In March 2022, her charge was reduced to conspiracy to commit a felony. By June 2023, Jackie pleaded guilty to attempted conspiracy to commit a felony. She received a suspended sentence, meaning she could plead guilty and receive probation. Jackie spent 120 days in jail and will be on probation for 10 years, with a requirement to spend 2 days in jail each year on the anniversary of Ted Shaughnessy's murder. Nicolas, in prison, stated that he wanted to impress Jackie and become rich. Ted Shaughnessy, a registered jeweler, and Corey Shaughnessy, a certified gemologist appraiser, could have shared a prosperous life with their adopted son. Instead, Nicolas, driven by greed, chose to end their lives. Nicolas remains incarcerated at the Clemens Unit in Brazoria, Texas. Aaron Smith serves his sentence at the LeBlanc Unit in Beaumont, and Johnny Leon is at the Barry B. Telford Unit in New Boston. This is a story of transformation and tragedy that society recognized too late. Sometimes, kindness comes at a staggering cost, and those we hold close can turn into the very ones who betray us. Ironically, the enthusiastic Shaughnessy family went to great lengths to bring their adopted son into their lives, only for that same son to betray them in the worst possible way. Nicolas Shaughnessy's actions illustrate a harsh truth: while money can be replaced, time cannot. Nicolas's regret and apologies from prison come too late for a family shattered by greed and betrayal. His mother, Corey Shaughnessy, has endured an unimaginable emotional journey, grappling with the reality that her own son orchestrated a plan to end her and her husband's lives for financial gain. Despite the horror, Corey still loves the son she once knew, the same young boy who once filled her life with joy and hope. But that boy is gone, and with him, the future she and Ted envisioned together. Now, Corey lives under an assumed name in another state, seeking solace and trying to rebuild her faith in humanity. The chilling thought lingers: the very individuals who plotted to kill you are living right under your roof. It's a stark reminder to be vigilant and discerning about those we trust. Take a good look around you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more shocking and thought-provoking stories ahead.